ladies and gentlemen, the ground on which we stand today has seen numerous ceremonies honoring the ties of friendship and cooperation that continue to flourish between the province of British Columbia and the state of Washington. Today, we are commemorating the most noble gesture which one nation can extend toward another, that of a helping hand in a time of need. A major natural disaster or nuclear attack concentrated in this area of Canada or the United States would create an immediate requirement for disaster services and mutual assistance between our two great countries, our provinces and states, our cities, large and small.
The voluntary dispersal of people from the Vancouver target area in the possible event of disaster. Our common tongue does much to assist in our mutual trust and understanding. However, it is only one factor in the attainment of such a forward step in survival planning. Much work spread over several years has been accomplished by the officials of the civil defense organizations of the state of Washington and of British Columbia, so that today's arrangements could become a reality. Across this unfortified boundary, with our hands clasped in friendship, we mark today as the completion of a vital step toward ensuring the survival of our people. It is an agreement that sets up a traffic control plan that gives assurance to the people of the Vancouver target area that they may exit during a period of disaster to the eastern part of our own province through Whatcom County. Canada and the United States is the example to all the world of mutual trust and understanding. May our mutual friendship and understanding continue to live and to prosper forever, plus one day. Thank you.
This is the Honorable W.D. Black, Provincial Secretary for the Province of British Columbia. Minister Black, why is British Columbia taking the lead among the 6 provinces that border on the United States in this kind of civil defense cooperation?
Well, my friend, number one is because we just happen to be the smartest people in Canada. But number two is because of our topography and our geography. You'll recall that the Rocky Mountain Range comes down bordering, or cutting us off, rather, from Alberta and possibly the rest of Canada. And it is to our mutual aid and advantage to have a cooperative program with the state of Washington. And we found that cooperation excellent and to the mutual benefit of both parties.
Is this routing through Whatcom County a permanent one, or are there plans for developing evacuation routes within British Columbia?
Well, let me answer it this way, that we do have other evacuation routes in British Columbia. But most people in this general area know the city of Vancouver, and they know that there's approximately 8 lanes of traffic coming out of Vancouver toward the south or toward this Y. And when we reach Hope, that narrows into 2 lanes of traffic. And it becomes very obvious that if we continued with that type of evacuation, then we'd have nothing but congestion. And this arrangement that was made here today will alleviate, at least to some degree, that congestion that might occur at that point.
Thank you very much. The Honorable W.D. Back, Provincial Secretary for the Province of British Columbia. Turning to another topic, the North Cross State Highway. Do you think this would have significant civil defense value as evacuation routes, both for people in this part of Washington State and in southern British Columbia?
I believe I could say, Al, that the North Cross State Highway would be of great benefit to this particular area and to the province of British Columbia. I think the economic value is tremendous, but the fact that you just mentioned that it could help in civil defense, I'm sure it could.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor John Sherberg of the state of Washington. We are standing in the Washington State Civil Defense Mobile Command Post bus, and we are talking with General E.M. Llewellyn, who is the Civil Defense Coordinator for the state of Washington. General Llewellyn, what is this bus's purpose?
Well, this is a mobile command post. We can operate state government from this particular unit. We can keep, for example, in touch with county command, that's all our county government, with state fisheries and game, with the military, with air, with our own civil defense networks, Coast Guard, and with what we call ham operators, which is almost everybody else.
And this would be the place from which the communications for state government would be carried on in event of a national disaster.
It could be. In other words, we can move this bus to any safe location and still operate, maintain communications with all other units of government.
We are here at the Peace Arch today to start a new cooperative venture between Washington State and British Columbia with regard to evacuation routes. When was this first suggested?
About 2 years ago. See, it takes quite a bit of time to work out an international agreement. First starts at the state level between the two state governments, and that has to go up to the State Department. And our State Department in Washington, D.C. works with Ottawa in Canada. And so it takes nearly 2 years to work out an agreement on the local level when you finally put it through the whole mill.
You find this cooperation in civil defense with the province of British Columbia to be a significant strategic factor in your long-range planning?
Yes, we do. Many people, I believe, fail to realize how intertied we are with various sections of even the North American continent. For example, should the bomb drop on the state of Washington or on the whole United States, producing 3 times the food we need in Washington, we'd find we would have to supply food to Alaska and Idaho, and we'd probably receive some food from Oregon, and this also overlaps into Canada. These interchanges of materials and supplies and strategic materials, we receive oil, for example, from Canada. So all of these things have to be organized on a cooperative basis.
This form of cooperation is an absolute necessity, then?
Absolutely. Even in peacetime it's required. In wartime it would become absolutely necessary for survival.
What are current plans with regard to civil defense in Washington State?
Well, our big project now is to provide protection from fallout for the entire population of the state of Washington. We have recently uncovered and engineered the safety factors of every building, mine, tunnel, and structure in the state of Washington, and we now know that there is survival protection for some 690,000 of our people, and between now and the first of the year we will stock all of these facilities with food, water, sanitary equipment, first aid equipment, and radiological equipment for their protection in case of the bomb.
Thank you very much, General Llewellyn. This is Brigadier J.F.A. Lister, Civil Defense Coordinator for the province of British Columbia. Brigadier Lister, have plans been developed whereby Washington State residents might be using BC facilities in case of an international disaster?
Mr. Swift, all our planning is based on reciprocity, and we would certainly welcome the opportunity to assist the people of Washington State if there was a strike down here and not one in British Columbia.
I see. Well, would this cooperation also extend on both sides of the border to things other than evacuation routes, such as hospitals, fire equipment, things of this nature, food?
It definitely would, Mr. Swift. After all, people are people, and it doesn't matter whether they come from Washington or British Columbia. Our facilities would be placed at your disposal.
And this cross-the-border cooperation is something that is a necessity if civil defense programs in both the province and in the state of Washington are to be effective. Is that right?
To all intents and purposes, Mr. Swift, we are one country if the continent is attacked.
I see. What are current plans in British Columbia for additional civil defense activities for protection of the citizens?
Well, our planning is based on shelter and dispersal. And, of course, dispersal is on a voluntary basis.
And that's the reason we're here today, another method of dispersal.
Exactly, Mr. Swift, exactly.
This bronze plaque commemorates the ceremonies completed here today, September 22nd, 1962, signifying the placing of the first marker route for the dispersal routes from Vancouver through Washington State and into British Columbia again. And with us today is John Littlehales, the Civil Defense Coordinator for the Vancouver Zone, and Ray Hennig, who is the Civil Defense Director for Whatcom County. First of all, John, could you tell us where this dispersal route begins?
It follows the Dees Island Freeway through the Dees Island Tunnel down to the border here.
And when it gets to the border, where does it go?
It goes over 2 routes. It goes over H Street east, and it also goes over the Blaine-Sumas Road to Sumas, to the border control station at Sumas, and then back on into Canada.
Now, H Street is H Street in Blaine.
That is H Street in Blaine, that's right.
Okay, and once it gets to the Sumas border, where does it go from there?
Well, it goes from the border crossing up back to Trans-Canada Highway through Chilliwack and through the Hope.
Mr. Littlehales, another very interesting thing took place this afternoon. That was the feeding of the troops in the emergency kitchens up here. How many of these kitchens do you have in British Columbia, or will you have soon?
Well, at the moment we have 2 of them, Al, but we have 6 more coming, and we will have 8 altogether in my zone.
And how many people could one of these kitchens feed?
Well, each kitchen feeds 500 persons for 1 hour.
For 1 hour?
For 1 hour.
And these are completely equipped?
Completely equipped, all except the food, of course.
I noticed a rather interesting stove. Could you tell us something about the stoves that are used in these emergency kitchens?
Well, this Soya stove goes way back. It was invented by the chef for Napoleon, and they haven't been able to improve on this stove since. It burns anything. Anything at all you can get your hands on, this stove will burn, and you can cook on it.
Coal, wood,
anything
brush,
at all. Anything that burns.
Anything that burns. Another very interesting thing that is taking place here is in the way of cooperation between the province of British Columbia and Washington State is the cooperation in the area of firefighting. Could you tell us something about the couplings, Ray, that the fighters can get at the border stations?
Yes, the threading on the fire equipment in Canada differs from the threads on the fire equipment in our country. And in our mutual cooperation, each nation has purchased and mounted adapters that they're now interchangeable, and the Canadian Fire Department can fight fires in the United States, and the American equipment can do likewise in Canada.
Well, if say the New Westminster Fire Department were to be coming down here to help us, where would they pick up these adapters? At the Canadian or the American station?
They'd pick them up at the Custom House.
In the
Canadian
Canadian
right.
Custom House, and in the case of firefighting equipment going north, they'd pick it up at the American.
At the American Customs House, that's right.
I see. Is there any problem here with insurance? I know there have been cases where firefighting equipment from one city has not gone to another because they say their insurance won't cover. Has that been cleared up in this case?
That has been cleared up in the planning of the program. That question was cleared up to the mutual benefit of both countries involved. There is no insurance liability or problem.
Can this firefighting equipment be utilized across the border in any other than just the case of national attack, war, in other words? Can they be used in case of natural disaster, a terrible fire in Blaine? Could they get help from BC?
Yes, they could get help from British Columbia. Likewise, British Columbia could get help. If a conflagration started that was beyond the capabilities of either department, they could call for mutual aid and they would receive it.
Now, gentlemen, I know that this ceremony was the fruition of a long series of meetings and work that involved hundreds of people. Now that it's completed, what are you looking forward to? More cooperation or what?
Well, we couldn't expect much more cooperation than we have already received from our good Canadian friends. But however, let's say the cooperation will continue, and the friendship that we've known will not stop just because this plaque has been dedicated here today.
What about you, Mr. Littlehales?
Well, I think the one big thing that we get out of this, Al, is the fact that in our agreements there is a definite statement about no border. There is a no border policy and we are acting as one people. And I think this is a big lesson that people all over the world should note and take note of, and they can learn a lot from it.